You know, when you picture an ancient Egyptian pharaoh, there's a pretty good chance one name just pops into your head: Ramses II. Later on, people gave him an even bigger title, Ramses the Great. But what exactly did he do to earn a name like that? Was he some kind of military mastermind? Was he just incredibly wealthy? Or was there something else going on? Well, today we're going to peel back the layers of history and figure out how this one ruler so masterfully built his own legend. All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with how his legend even began. Then we'll dive into his incredible use of propaganda. We'll see how he literally stamped his face all over Egypt, check out his skills as a diplomat, and then, finally, we'll try to figure out what his greatness was really all about.
So where does a legend like this even start? Well, the first and maybe the most important piece of the puzzle is actually something surprisingly simple: time. Ramses II had a ton of it. He ruled for over 60 years. I mean, that's almost unheard of in the ancient world. And this wasn't just a number, it was his single greatest advantage. All that time gave him a really rare chance to launch these massive projects, and way more importantly, to carefully shape his own image for generation after generation.
And with a long reign like that, you can bet there was plenty of time for war. This brings us to his rep as a great warrior, and the absolute cornerstone of that reputation is the Battle of Kadesh. But what's so fascinating here is that the story is less about the battle and way more about how he sold it to the Egyptian people.
See, if you look at his temple walls, Ramses is basically a superhero. He claims he almost single-handedly defeated the entire Hittite army. But the reality, according to historians, it was a brutal, messy fight that probably ended in a tie. And right there, that reveals Ramses' whole strategy. He got that controlling the story was just as important as winning the battle.
And this is a perfect example of what we call royal propaganda. It's not really about telling outright lies. It's about carefully crafting the narrative you want people to believe. Through art, through carvings, Ramses presented the ideal version of himself. Brave, a favorite of the gods, practically superhuman. He was the master of his own PR.
But Ramses didn't just shape stories. He shaped the very landscape of Egypt. He became one of the most prolific, just nonstop builders in the kingdom's entire history.
You see, every single temple, every statue, every monument was basically another piece of advertising for the brand of Ramses the Great. He was embedding his legacy directly into stone to last for all eternity. I mean, the scale of his building program was just staggering. You have the stunning temples at Abu Simbel, with these colossal statues that basically screamed Egyptian power to anyone who saw them. He built an entirely new capital city, Pi-Ramesses, and he even added his name to tons of older monuments, kind of absorbing the legacies of past pharaohs into his own.
This quote just sums it up perfectly. By building on such a massive, overwhelming scale, he made absolutely sure that for the rest of history, nobody could travel through Egypt without seeing his name and his face again and again and again.
But, you know, a truly great ruler couldn't just be a warrior and a builder, right? Ramses also mastered other kinds of power, and this shows a much more clever side to his rule.
Think about this. After years of fighting the Hittites, the same guys from the Battle of Kadesh, Ramses actually negotiated a peace. This document is one of the earliest international treaties we've ever found. It shows he was smart enough to know when to choose diplomacy over just endless war.
And get this, even his family life was part of his public image. Having dozens and dozens of kids wasn't just a personal thing, it was a symbol. It projected fertility, stability, and this idea of divine blessing over the whole kingdom. It was another way of saying, I am at the center of a strong and orderly world.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. We've got the long reign, the propaganda machine, the massive building projects, and the diplomacy. So what's the final verdict? What was his greatness all about?
Well, it looks like his title was no accident at all. It was the result of a deliberate four-part formula. Step 1, rule for so long that you can actually make a huge impact. Step 2, turn your battles into epic legends. Step 3, build on a scale so massive you become a permanent part of the landscape. And Step 4, combine it all to forge this perfect, lasting image of a god king.
And this, right here, this is the real takeaway. Ramses was definitely a powerful king, no doubt. But his true genius, it was in public relations. He understood that by controlling the historical record, the statues, the temples, the stories, he could control his own legacy for thousands of years. He didn't just live history, he wrote it.
Which leaves us with this really fascinating final thought, doesn't it? When we look back at the great figures of history, how much are we really seeing their true power, and how much are we just seeing their really successful marketing? The story of Ramses the Great suggests the two might be impossible to ever pull apart.